All right, back again. The last way that we are going to write the equation of a circle. We're going to give it a diameter. Now, so just in case you missed our last video, remember the equation of a circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals radius squared. And when you're finished, your x and your y will still be there. Your h and k are the parts you need to plug in. Remember from our other function that controls your left, right, your vertex, your up, down, the important like turn points. And if you think about a circle, if you don't know where the center is, you can't ever identify the radius. How big is a circle? You can't solve for area. You can't solve for circumference. It's a useless circle if you can't find the center. So h and k are your important guys that you need to know. Now, in the previous video, we had an h, a k, and an x and a y. We were missing the radius squared. In this case, if we understand that a diameter, so we want to remember a diameter is from endpoint to endpoint on a circle. So basically, I have this coordinate and I have this coordinate, neither of which are the center and neither of which are the length of the radius. So we have a bunch of mess that we have to solve through to even begin to write the equation of the circle in standard form. Now, if the diameter are those 2 points, the diameter always passes through the center of the circle. And remember, if we cut the diameter in half, that gives us a radius and a radius. So ultimately, if you find the midpoint of the diameter, you would have the center. Now, I gave you some review videos on midpoint, but my cheat for midpoint is if we stack them. So stack them. Then we're going to add them. Between 0 plus a negative 2 gives me a negative 2. 6 plus a negative 2 is going to give me a 4. And then we're going to divide by 2. So this is solving for midpoint. This doesn't help you if you have a missing endpoint as much, but just basic midpoint is stack them, add them, divide by 2. Stack them, add them, divide by 2. So our midpoint is going to be negative 1, positive 2. Now, if I were you, and like I said in the last video, and as you well know, I'm a big fan of highlighters and colored pens, I will circle this bad boy because he is the guy you're going to need when you're finished. That's your h and your k value again. So now I have 2 coordinates that are a point on the circle, and I have a center. So it's just like our previous video, you only had to add solving for midpoint first. So we're going to go back to our equation, just like we did in our previous video. And now we're going to have to solve for radius because I now have a center. So this is our center. And I have 2 xy choices. So this is xy and this is xy. This is where you get to pick freedom of choice, whichever coordinate makes more sense to you. I like 0, 6 because 0 never messes with things and neither one of them are negative. So I am going to take my xy first. So I'm going to choose this xy. So x, y. Oh, sorry, left off our minus. And then I'm going to take my center, which is going to be my h, and my k again, and I'm going to boogie and find my radius squared. Again, you're not going to need your radius because in this case, this question again is asking you to write the equation of a circle. So 4 times 4 is 16 equals radius squared. And so we have another ugly radius because the square root of 17 is going to be a decimal again, which is allowed, but not ideal and not necessary because this question is asking for the equation. So we're going to plug back in. X, we need to make sure we're focusing on our center. So minus 1 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals our radius squared. Clean that up. So x plus 1 squared, y minus 2 squared equals 17. Now, I said it in one of the first videos, big call out, especially how frustrated we get doing our Excels. Make sure you don't leave off that plus mark right there. We get magically it gets lost, and then our squareds. If it's not squared, then it doesn't make it a circle. Kind of like a parabola, how it's x squared. A circle is basically 2 parabolas put together. So 2 separate functions, the x function and the y function within that makes the circle. So we've got one more. I'm going to walk you through it again. So this means I have 2 xy's. And I'll pause for a minute in case you want to pause your video. If not, Boogie, we still have a bunch of examples that I can leave you to work with. So we have an xy and an xy. We're missing our radius, and we're missing the center. The easiest way to solve for center, remember, is we're going to stack them. So we're going to stack them. Yep, I'm going to say it 100 times as if you were in class. And we're going to add them. I don't know if I've mentioned how much I miss seeing you guys. Even those of you that gave me the most trouble, I do absolutely am bored out of my mind. All right, so -4 plus 4 is going to give us a 0. 3 plus 3 is going to give me 6. So stack them, add them, and then beautifully divide by 2. 0 divided by 2 is going to give me a 0. And then 6 divided by 2 is going to give me a 3. I'm going to circle that bad boy so I don't lose him because that's the center. So when we're finished, he's where we're going to reference. We can pick whichever coordinate up at the top to use as our random point to write our equation. I'm a big fan of positive numbers just so I don't have to deal with negatives if I can help it. And, you know, get distracted and lose a negative. So I'm going to choose the coordinate that has the positive numbers, 4 and 3. X goes in front, Y goes in front. So a point goes in front, and then we're going to use our center. So 0 and 3, and get to solving. So 4 minus 0 is going to give us that 4 squared. 3 minus 3 is going to give us a 0 squared. So 4 times 4 is 16 plus 0. So our radius squared is 16. So just for conversational sakes, what would our radius be? We take the square root of 16. And every time you take the square root of a number, how many answers do you have? A positive and negative. So there's always 2 answers. But we're back to talking the distance. So that negative answer does not pertain to this conversation. So we can leave it be. So just for discussion, our radius in this case is a nice even 4. And our diameter, be careful because you will magically tell me it's 16, but the diameter is 8. Because remember, diameter is 2 times whatever the radius is. That's how we're going to get that. I think I mentioned it on the previous videos, and if we're in class, you would hear me say it until you were tired of hearing me say it. Be careful because you know that the diameter is 2 times radius, and you love to give me the answer 16. So to pull the trigger on our final answer, we need to write our equation. So it's going to be x minus 0, which is just x squared, plus y minus 3 squared equals our radius squared. So again, you really didn't have to discuss that radius and diameter. I'm just making sure you're not losing some of that good knowledge you learned back in 8th grade or whenever you started dealing with circles for the first time. All right, so the next example I have is 2, -4, and 6, 0 as the diameter. So pause your video, try it, mess up. You got to figure out where you're going to mess up. Again, mess up on your notes, not on iExcel. All right, so pause this bad boy while I move my paper. All right, here we are. So we need a midpoint, which is going to be the center of our circle, because right now we're missing all the things, the center and the radius. So we're going to stack them. And I did get a text last night. Somebody was telling me that they were taking these notes just in case we go back. I would take these notes for that reason. And when you go to AFM, this math is still a thing. And also, when you're doing your iExcel, make your life easier. Work smarter, not harder. So 8, -4, when we add those, because 2 plus 6 is 8, and -4 plus 0 is going to give you a -4. And then divide by 2. It's going to give me a 4, -2. You know me, I'm going to circle that bad boy so I don't lose him, because that's who I need at the very end. And I can pick whichever one of these points I want to use as my XY. I like zeros, so I'm going to focus on that guy right here as my XY. And that 4, -2 is my H and my K. We're going to open up our equation again. So x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Erase my y. We actually have a number. So we have to pick. I chose the 6, 0. You can do the 2, -4. It'll work as well. So choose whichever one you want. The math should be the same. So x and y goes in the front. H and k goes in the back. And we're going to solve for our radius squared because that's unknown. That's what we're missing. So 6 minus 4 is going to give me 2 squared plus 0 Minus minus 2 makes that a positive 2 squared equals radius squared. So 4 plus 4 equals radius squared. Gives me 8 equals radius squared. Again, if I square root that, it's definitely a decimal. It's allowed. It's just not beautiful. So we're going to leave it be because that's all we really need in this question. Just wants you to write the equation of the circle. So I'm going to take my h and my k and my radius squared. So x minus h squared plus y minus k, which is going to be a minus minus 2. So we're going to go ahead and skip and make that a plus 2 squared equals radius squared, which is 8. And we have successfully written the equation of a circle, again, given just the diameter. All right. Get on those IXLs. 80s all the way across.